Look at Judith is there with the Grinch. That's a Christmas thing.
That's cute.
Judith is there with the Grinch.
Is it doing that? It's doing that again.
Yeah, that's fine now. Yes, so we are streaming live now. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 13th, 2023 regular council meeting for the Village of Lytton. I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone to please turn off your videos and mute your microphones and to allow council to begin the proceedings. Just to let you know, we're all being recorded and broadcasted on the Village of Lytton YouTube channel. If anyone is looking for a video recording of this meeting or past meetings, you can go to the Village YouTube channel and watch it there. Thank you. Your worship, you may call the meeting to order.
Thank you. I call this meeting to order. It's exactly 7 o'clock. So I want to start by acknowledging that the Village of Lytton is situated on the unceded traditional territory of the Ntlaka'kan people. And at the table here tonight, I just want to introduce to make sure everybody recognizes who's here. We have Corporate Officer Lisa Storoshenko, Brian Baxter, who is the Manager of Municipal Operations, Councillor McCann, Councillor Lightfoot, Councillor Michelle, Councillor Toss is joining us by Zoom this evening. So we will start right off by adopting tonight's agenda, hopefully. So who would like to make the motion?
I will move to adopt the agenda for tonight.
Thank you. A seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you. And all those in favor? Carried.
Excuse me, Mayor, we do need to adopt the agenda as amended.
I
To add that.
apologize. You're right. So we're going to adopt it as amended because we're adding a late item into other business. That's right. Okay. So we'll move on to adoption of minutes. And we have the minutes of the November 22nd meeting. Who would like to move? Councillor Lightfoot, seconder.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. Are there any errors or omissions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Now we move right on to, it looks like public comment. So item number 7, and I'm going to turn it back over to CO Storoshenko.
So members of the public are now invited to comment on matters relating to the agenda. If you would like to speak, please use raise hand function on Zoom. You can find that by clicking on reactions at the bottom of your screen and then clicking raise hand. When it's your turn, I'll read your name and we'll ask you to unmute yourself. You'll get a pop-up on your screen asking you to unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Speakers are asked to please state and spell your name and state your address and the agenda item that you're speaking to. If anyone would like to speak, please use raise hand now. I'm going to call again. If there's anyone who would like to speak to one of the agenda items, please use raise hand function now. And I'll call for a third time. If anyone would like to speak, please use raise hand now. I don't see anyone. Is anyone here at Parish Hall wish to speak? No. Back to you then.
Thank you. So we'll move on to item number 8, which is our staff reports. And I'm going to turn it over to CO Mombercat. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mayor O'Connor. Good evening, everyone. The first report that we have here tonight is with respect to the funds that the Village of Lytton has with the BC Interior Community Foundation. So this information has kind of come to light through a couple of interactions that the mayor had with the foundation, and then her and I got talking about it and thought it would be a good idea to bring the information forward for all of council and to actually seek some specific direction around these funds, because we had we knew they existed, but we didn't have our own kind of records on them. So just to kind of briefly summarize it, you know, the Community Foundation is an organization that has many funds under its direction, so to speak. So the idea is that different communities can set up specific purpose funds there. Donors can donate, and then the principal or the amount that they donate remains in perpetuity, and it's just the interest off of the fund that gets distributed for various purposes, whatever the purpose of the fund might be. So, for example, Lytton has 3 funds within the BC Interior Community Foundation, and that is the Lytton Community Health Trust Fund, the Lytton Community Fund, and the Village of Lytton Fund. So all 3 of those funds exist with the Community Foundation. There's a principal balance that cannot be touched. It remains with the foundation. And each one of them has sort of a different purpose and a different method for which the earnings on it are accessed. So the Lytton Community Health Trust Fund, that's a fund that's been in existence since early 2000s, I do believe. And it's a fund where the interest is automatically paid out every year to the Village of Lytton. And it is then used to support various healthcare initiatives. And so in the last couple of years, when the interest was paid out, because there's nothing happening, those funds have been put into reserve for future use. And so we are extracting the earnings every year from that fund, but then just depositing it in a reserve with the village itself. Another fund that is there is the Lytton Community Fund. This one only has a small balance in it at this time, but it has a stipulation where the funds, if we don't take the earnings out of it, they're not automatically reinvested. So the earnings that have built up that haven't been taken out have not been earning any interest for us. So there's one of the recommendations relates to, reinvesting those earnings into the fund. And then the third fund that's there is the Village of Lytton Community Fund. And so this one has a larger balance in it. There are accrued earnings in it currently. The Village of Lytton wishes to access those funds. We just need to provide the BC Interior Community Foundation with some direction to that effect. So all 3 of them are different. They operate differently, and they're for different purposes. One of the things that we would like to do is get a little bit more into them and set some sort of policies and guidelines on how the Village of Lytton will administer these funds into the future. So I think that's about it on that. Oh, and these all get wrapped up and reported under the BC Interior Community Foundation. So they can be found in their annual report and on their website. And they have just recently developed a new page dedicated to Lytton. As many of you know, following the fire, we had sort of a donate now kind of button on the website where individuals could make donations, and there were a number of donations made. Potentially in the future, this could be an opportunity if supporters of Lytton would like to invest in the future of the community, they could invest through these community foundation funds. And then, as I said, the endowment, always remains intact to continue giving in perpetuity in the way of interest. So,
Thank you. Thank you for that. Why don't we put the recommended motion on the floor before we ask for comments and questions? So who would like to make this 4-part recommended motion?
Just jump right in here.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. Oh, sorry. Councillor Toss, would you?
Sounds good. Or Toss.
You're okay.
Councillor McCann, okay.
Okay. So I will move that council receive information updates from the BC Interior Community Foundation about 3 Lytton community funds, and that council directs staff to prepare a policy for administering the 3 Lytton funds held by the BC Interior Community Foundation, and that council provide direction to staff regarding reinvesting the earnings from the Lytton Community Fund. And finally, that council directs staff to share information with the public about donating to the Lytton funds through BCICF's website.
Great, and a seconder? Councillor
I'll second
Toss. Now, are there any comments or questions for CO Mombercat? Councillor Lightfoot.
So I'm not, I am somewhat familiar with this, these accounts. And Lytton Community Foundation Health Trust, I think we used to have the option of reinvesting or receiving the money, but we always received the money. So near the end of my last term, they suggested that the village at that time create an annual opportunity for groups and clubs that might want to use that fund, and just have it adjudicated by council or a council team, and allocate the funds each spring. So historically, a lot of the times we gave it to the hospital auxiliary. That's no longer in existence. I do believe some money was given to youth camps and the pool occasionally. But what I'm curious about is the accrued earnings, especially in the Village of Lytton Community Fund, it's at $22,000. So do they just hold that money? Is there a way that we can take that money out and set up a capital reserve for public buildings within the municipality, or is that an option to take that 22,000 and put it into a reserve?
It's my understanding that with that fund in particular, that the Village of Lytton is able to access those funds for whatever purpose. It could be a capital reserve, it could be other things, just by providing the community foundation with a letter of direction. I'd have to dig into that a little bit to make sure I understood the process fully. But I was thinking that some of these items could be addressed in a policy that would be developed on how we might administer these funds.
I'm just thinking to make interest sooner than later.
And we could also reinvest the accrued earnings into this fund as well,
Right.
and leave them there if we wish. I mean, the idea of the community foundation, of course, is that you get a greater return because you've got a larger investment in total.
I was thinking about that earlier. So there's about $100,000. We made $5,600 last year. And the accrued earnings are 22,000. If we put 22,000 in, that's about 20% more. We're only going to be looking at maybe $1,500 more per year. So it would take us quite a few years to get that $22,000 out. So I guess it comes down to, do we want to build the endowment, or do we want to see that as a reserve that we may need to use in the next few years?
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? I'm wondering about the small amount, the Lytton Community Fund. It's a very minimal amount, $7,000. Is it possible to have it rolled over into the Village of Lytton Community Fund? I don't know. Just a thought.
And the initial information that we have is that this is one of the ones where grants are supposed to be made to community groups approved by a committee of council. So,
Right. Yeah.
but we could look and see what exactly was, kind of the terms of it when it was set up initially, to see if it could be, although the balance itself is small, it's still benefiting from the same overall, preferential interest rate that the millions of dollars in the community foundation are all benefiting from. So, if it's by itself or if it's rolled in, it's still going to earn the same amount of money.
Thank you. Councillor McCann?
I'll just clarify that I understand what that we're actually directing you to do tonight, CAO Mulberket, and that we will see coming back to us some kind of a policy to administer the three funds. So you'll put together recommendations for each of these three funds and attach some kind of policy together, and that we can kind of look at and decide if that looks like something we can live with or not. And how long would that take probably you thinking like in the new year sometime, I presume? And
Yeah, I'm thinking like probably within the next 6 months. It's not going to be on the top of my to-do list, but it's just,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's a good idea, like for something like the community fund that the mayor was just referencing, when the village is back up and it's active and there's groups in the area, there may be things that council wishes to support. And right now we don't really have any guidelines or any, kind of format to do that.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. So all those in favor of this motion?
Yes.
Carried. Thank you. We look forward to that report. So we'll move on to item number 8.1.2, the infrastructure priorities, community engagement, and CO Mombercat.
And I'm going to turn it over to our communications advisor, Melissa DeRue, and she's going to give the presentation. So over to you, Melissa.
Thanks. I'm just going to get that started here. Sorry, Lisa, have you made me a host there?
I did.
Okay.
You're a co-host, but I can make you, yeah, you're a co-host. So
Okay. Oh, here we go. All right. Can you see the presentation now?
No.
No?
No.
Let me just see here. Not now. Okay, would you like to drive and I'll talk?
Sure.
Sorry, it
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be moving over to your display.
Okay, let me just get this up here. Second. Oops, that did not work. Hold on one second, guys. Did not. Very strange. But can you just call up the PowerPoint now?
I can see it.
Oh, can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
You just
We
need to start the
can't.
slideshow and we'll be all
Yeah,
set.
we just.
There it is.
There we go. It wasn't showing up on our screen.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, it's displaying now. There we go.
Yes.
Great. Thanks. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Diane Mombercat introduced me, I work as a communications advisor for the village. My name's Melissa DeRue, and I'm calling from Pemberton, which is traditional Lil'wat Nation territory. I'm going to provide an update on community engagement about village infrastructure needs and priorities based on some engagement activities this fall. Those activities included a community meeting in person at the Parish Hall on September 15th, an online survey from September 20th to 29th, and printed copies of the survey, which were also available at the village office. The purpose of the engagement was to receive feedback about priorities for infrastructure investment committed by the Government of Canada and Province of BC for Lytton's rebuilding, to identify any infrastructure missing from Council's initial list, and to discuss potential future community needs and opportunities for shared services. And just to recap, the Government of Canada and Province of BC have committed significant funding to the village for infrastructure rebuilding. And that includes $64 million from the Government of Canada to rebuild net zero, fire resistant public buildings. Province of BC, $21 million to restore crucial services such as fire protection, reconstruct key municipal infrastructure and complete backfilling, and an additional $17.4 million for a variety of upgrades such as water system upgrades, wastewater upgrades, covered by both the province and Government of Canada. And the community engagement opportunities were to receive input about immediate priorities as well as the vision for the future, and to confirm the direction that Council was looking to invest this funding as the village needs to apply for the funding specifically with grant applications. The village recognizes that not everything will be rebuilt at once, so this feedback will also help with phasing of the infrastructure. So who we heard from at the community meeting, we had 19 participants. The online survey received 31 responses. The printed survey at the village office received 1 response, and we received a submission from the Lytton Museum and Archives for a total of 52 responses. At the community meeting, we didn't ask for any demographic information. The survey responses included primarily over 60% from Lytton and surrounding areas, as well as some from the Lower Mainland, as expected. Council started with their list of infrastructure priorities. So these suggestions included the village office, the fire hall, public works building, library, pool and park, info center and visitor center, public washrooms and drinking water, farmers market, festival space, museum, and essential staff accommodation to support municipal services. And many of these are to rebuild what was lost, but also looking to the future. And the responses from the survey and the meeting about the top 4 priorities from the survey, the fire hall was number 1, village office was number 2, public works building was number 3, and there were tied responses for number 4 with essential staff accommodation, farmers market, and festival space. At the meeting, slightly different response, but not that far off, with a fire hall again as the top priority, public washrooms and a farmers market space, number 2, village office or festival space, number 3, and the pool also recognized as a priority. Some of the comments that we received at the meeting about infrastructure were about combining infrastructure. So whether it be a public works building combined with an info center, rec center, senior center, library or washroom, having a farmer's market with a festival space, info center, washrooms, drinking water, library with the village office, considering a museum and visitor center in a shared building, and dedicated emergency operations space in the fire hall. Also considering staff accommodation on the 2nd story of businesses, which wouldn't necessarily be a municipal function, but was noted as well. And other comments were around the pool, using sand filtration and solar heat, suggestions for parks using xeriscaping, planting fruit trees, having a commemorative park, making sure that parks were fire smarted, considering the vegetation that was used, and considering water in the community, putting in filtration before UV, combining drinking water with misting stations for hot weather events, and providing water lines for irrigation. And when we asked in the meeting and survey, did we miss anything? We received feedback about parks, a desire for a water park or a dog park, a large green space for sports, potentially a storytelling area. We had mentions about seniors facilities, recreation center, fitness center, and again, more talk about water infrastructure, sprinklers on homes' roofs, irrigation in town green spaces. And once again, what we heard when we asked, did we miss anything, is combined uses. So whether it's a village office with a pool or a public works building, of course, the viability of those options and the land use and location are considerations for council and staff. Combining service buildings, having a pool potentially at the elementary school, having rentable meeting space with kitchen facilities, combining enterprising eateries with the library, and again, having good setup for farmers market and festival spaces. We also received feedback about things that weren't necessarily municipal infrastructure. So lots of comments about medical facilities. And of course, we're receiving updates from Interior Health about the temporary and permanent healthcare facility planning. Some of the desired businesses and services that people would like to see include a restaurant, store, grocery store, bank, business hub, and mini storage or RV storage facility. We also asked if there are opportunities for shared services with our neighbors. And so some suggestions were having a pool and recreation center shared between the TNRD, Lytton First Nation, other bands, and surrounding communities, having shared museum and visitor center with the Inklekama people and the Chamber of Commerce, considering childcare partnership with the Nezinman Center, and potentially even public performance spaces that are shared. Oh, next slide, please.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. We also asked
For us.
about Lytton's potential future. So what kind of community do we want to be? How do we attract families and younger community members? And what kinds of shared services and amenities do we need to plan for? This input will help guide short-term and long-term planning, and conversations are ongoing with partners about shared infrastructure. In this area, you can move to the next slide, please.
It's freezing for some odd reason.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So we heard 6 key themes about building a vibrant village for the future. The first 2 themes were around relationship building and reconciliation with the local First Nations. Some of the comments received in this area, let me just jump down one moment. We're just acknowledging the shared history of the Lytton area, considering renaming the village Cumsheen as a starting place, considering formal apologies, creating educational series, and creating a vision that reflects the shared cultures of those people who live in the area. The second theme was again around shared interests, services, and infrastructure. So creating partnerships with Indigenous communities to build infrastructure, for example, splash parks, outdoor pool or parks, and to attract young families. Building relationships so people feel comfortable accessing shared services, and recognizing that the Indigenous communities around Lytton are the largest employers and drivers of the economy, so helping with recruitment and retention for professional positions.
Oh, frozen.
Thank you. So the next 2 themes that emerged were on one hand, providing servicing for an aging population, and on the other, providing infrastructure for families and children. In the 2021 census, out of the village's population of 210, more than a third were 65 years or older. So along the lines of providing servicing and infrastructure for aging population is looking at seniors housing, a senior center, activity center, potentially even shared with preschool services, providing better access to people with disabilities, making sure the community is walkable and accessible, and again, providing access to medical facilities. And to attract families and ensure the vitality of the community, some people suggested not branding Lytton as a village for older folks, recognizing the children who live in the surrounding areas, making sure that there are arts and recreation centers and facilities, community halls, gathering spaces, and parks. And the next slide, please. Oh, sorry, just back one, please. Thanks. And so the fifth theme was around economic. The fifth theme was around economic development and rebranding. So considering highlighting Lytton's climate change and adaptation, telling the story of Lytton, developing the economy as a place to access outdoor adventures, or for developing agriculture or 100-mile diet, horticulture, vineyards, creating an integrated museum sharing Lytton's history, making Lytton a tourist stop that people don't bypass, hiring an economic development officer to implement the O'Leary plan, and making sure there are opportunities for home-based businesses and technical infrastructure, including a business hub and co-working space. And the sixth theme was around holistic planning. So not just looking at municipal services, but working together to make sure there's good education in schools, to make sure there's excellent healthcare and medical facilities, to make sure the village is walkable and accessible with good view corridors, and supporting things like reliable bus service. And next slide, please. And some final comments that we received were looking at planning for the next 100 years. Considering partnerships for building or operating infrastructure, not losing focus of the village's small tax base. So ensuring that any infrastructure that built can be sustainably operated. And with that respect, that includes also staffing and housing when it comes to providing municipal services. And with that, I'll close, and I'm wondering if there are any questions.
Thank you, Melissa, for this report. The way you've collated all the information and pulled out the themes. Are there any questions or comments from Melissa? No, it doesn't look like it at this time, Melissa. But again, thank you very much for doing that. And I know we're going to be taking a closer look at all of that information. So we have a motion to receive this report for information. Who would like to make that motion? Nobody? Councillor Lightfoot?
I'll move the council receives the infrastructure priorities community engagement report dated December the 13th, 2023 for information.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor McCann. All those in favor? Carried. Perfect. Councillor Lightfoot, yes.
I'm not sure, the screens froze up here in the hall, so I'm not sure if the YouTube will have the full
We'll check it.
presentation.
Yeah.
If not, is it on our website?
Yes, they usually attach it. So yeah, Melissa usually attaches it to, I think, the newsletter, and we have it usually linked. So
The report, yeah. Good. Thanks for that. Yeah, great to clarify that. Okay, so we'll move on to item number 8.2. Chief Financial Officer, Diane Lombercat.
Thank you very much, Mayor O'Connor. This report is with respect to an infrastructure grant that we have received under the Strategic Priorities Fund. So this is a a smaller grant for 135,000, smaller compared to the other ones that we've talked about lately. For 135,000, the funding is to be used to basically increase the village's capacity to plan for long-term infrastructure requirements. We do currently have an RFP posted on BC Bid, looking for a consultant or group of consultants to assist us with that plan. So this agreement has come from UBCM, and it's a pretty standard agreement. The description of the project is fairly straightforward, because it is really just meant to help us do some planning for future investment. So we have the agreement. They've requested that we sign it and send it back. This agreement has a 100% reimbursement clause in it, so we don't have to make any financial contribution ourselves, and the expenses will be reimbursed at 100%, and it is for expenditures up to June 30th of 2024.
Thank you. We have a recommended motion.
I'll take that.
Right.
The council authorized the Village of Lytton to enter into a funding agreement for the Strategic Priorities Fund, Lytton, increase local government capacity to undertake long-term infrastructure initiatives in the amount of 135,000, and that council authorized the mayor and corporate officer to sign the funding agreement.
A seconder?
Okay.
Councillor Lightfoot, are there any questions or comments? I think it was straightforward. All those in favor? Carried. And thank you, Diane. We will now move to item number 8.3. And we have a motion here. Who would like to make the motion? Councillor Lightfoot.
I move that council cancel the December 27th, 2023 regular council meeting.
And a seconder?
I'll second.
Great. And any comments or questions about that? That is the meeting that falls between Christmas and New Year's. So all those in favor? Carried. Item number 8.3.2, and this is to do with council meetings for next year scheduling. And so those are all in the reports. We have a motion. Who would like to make that motion?
I'll make that one.
Thank you, Councillor McCann.
I move that council adopt the 2024 council meeting schedule and the 2024 acting mayor designation schedule as presented.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Lightfoot. And are there any comments or questions about that? No? Okay. All those in favor? Carried. On to item number 8.4, which is recovery manager. And I believe we have Don Wong on Zoom this evening to give us the project update.
Hi all. I apologize, it's me. I'm not as exciting, I know. Lisa, do you mind pulling up the presentation?
Hold on.
Would that be okay?
Can everyone see it?
No, not yet. I have to share.
Okay.
Okay, hold on a minute.
Are we there?
Not yet,
I'm
not
missing
yet.
Oh, okay.
Nope, hold on, still not wanting to come up. Share screen business.
Same thing as before.
Yeah,
If you would prefer, you're welcome to put up the Winter Night Jazz.
it should be okay. Hold on one second. I just like to bring this up here first. And now we'll share screen.
Is it not the second one below it?
No, it's this one. This
If you look-
is in.
If you go back to share screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
We can see
can
it,
see
but
it?
not in presentation mode. It's not in
Okay,
slideshow
that's-
mode.
Yeah, we will. This doesn't show. There we go. Now it's showing up.
Can everyone see it now?
Is everyone okay now?
It's
Yeah,
okay.
Okay, good. All
So
right,
this
go
is
ahead.
just a really quick update. you know, in terms of what's been presented just at the last council meeting or community update, I think everybody's kind of knows where we're at. So really, Lisa, if you could jump to slide number 4. I think this is the important piece for everyone to know. We've really switched from recovery to rebuild. Zones 1 to 6, so starting at the south end of town all the way up just before the parish hall, they've been backfilled and they're ready to go. We have a number of folks, whether residential or commercial, that have started putting in their permits. One, as Mike mentioned previously, one house, the first permit's already going, right? And we're still doing work for backfilling because of archaeological issues for zone 7 and just outside. And we're taking a winter pause. When the term that winter pause is a little bit misleading. What it's really doing is taking a time to reassess and do further planning so we can hit the spring with the, you know, with the full rebuild running. On the village's side, what we really do is looking at how we can plan out the infrastructure. As Diane mentioned, RP has gone out for the water, road, and sewer master plans to find an engineer to help us with that. I think Melissa's also mentioned about talking about various types of community infrastructure that we're looking at for the building. We're hoping to go forward with something as well. Back to the property owners in terms of residents and businesses, now is really the time that we're going to ask people to get their permits in, because it helps us with our planning to know if there's like a location we really need to focus on that requires extra public works help or roads or anything. I can't stress enough that now is the time to try. And if you're thinking of rebuilding or you're thinking of building new, something a little bit different, now really is the time to go to the village website, start the permits process. You can reach out to the recovery manager or recovery director at Lytton.ca if you have any questions. And it's also the time, there was a community meeting where Pacific Can presented its commercial program that's not official yet, but it's going to be launching probably end of this year, beginning of next, which, as you heard Melissa talk about people restarting their home-based businesses, there's great funding there, great availability. I can't stress enough it's really a time to get working on those things. And that is the recovery manager presentation for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. So we have a motion to accept this update for information.
I move
Councillor-
that council received the December 13th, 2023 recovery project update for information.
And seconder?
Sure.
Councillor McCann. Are there any questions for Dawn or comments on that report? Nope, seeing none. Thank you so much, Dawn. All those in favor?
Aye.
And carried. So we'll move on to item 8.4.2, which is a Cora Engineering Works update, a verbal report. And Dawn, you're also giving that?
Yes, I can give that verbally.
Yeah.
There is a presentation that can be attached later on, but really, if you look at the works of Cora, they're really divided into two groups. One is the works during recovery, and one is the works during rebuild. This latter one, rebuild, is something I'm going to talk to as well about change order to get some more work done by Cora as we look forward to rebuilding. The works in recovery, really, scope of work was reviewing the existing info and really figuring out worker safety during the remediation and cleanup stages. A number of reports that are available that council has asked for that are provided in a folder. If anybody has any questions, they can contact me. The second piece is heading towards rebuild, which involved work plans, primarily things like slope stability assessments, geotechnical assessments. Right? That's all the required things that for folks doing their building permits, they'll see are are part of the big picture of what the village has to conform with as well. Some are archaeological, some are BC building code, some are just straight engineering. That's the verbal report. And then I can switch into the
Yes, go
change
ahead, move
order if
on
you'd
to
like.
the change order, please.
Okay, the change order along those lines is we're asking a request to provide Core Engineering a change order of up to $22,425 to test the geotechnical viability to locate a new fire hall on Loring Way. Part of this will be supported by the drilling done by, on the mark locates. That'll be just under $15,000 as a direct award. The results of this study will let us know that if the properties on Loring Way are engineeringly viable to place a new fire hall and hopefully a new combined emergency services. That's all. Is there any questions?
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor, no?
Motion.
Sorry, we'll put the motion. Yes, we'll make the motion. Sorry, Councillor Lightfoot.
I move that council approve a change order request to Acora Engineering for $22,425 to determine if the lands located at approximately 321 and 311 Loring Way are geotechnically viable to locate a new fire hall.
And a seconder?
Second,
Councillor Toss. Now, are there any questions or comments for Dawn regarding this? Councillor Toss?
I'm just clarifying that if there are archaeology costs incurred, which I'm assuming there will be, that would be in the MCR funding from that pocket, and just yet to be determined. I don't see that costed into it.
Oh, yes, of course. I apologize. That's just always an assumption, man.
That's okay.
Yes.
Okay,
It's
thank
always
you.
a safe assumption.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? No? So all those in favor? Carried. Thank you so much, Dawn. We'll move on now to 8.5.1, Director of Development, and we have development permit for mixed-use buildings. And Berta, is that going to be you? Yes.
Good evening, Your Worship, or Mayor and Council. It is me, Birte, you're part of your planning team. I'm located in Kelowna, and I'm going to try to do my own PowerPoint here and see if that works. If it doesn't, I will have.
Yeah.
There we go. Is that working?
Yes. Yay.
Excellent. Yay. Okay. So tonight I'm excited because I get to present the first new commercial building to you. So the architect and the landowner team, they agreed to do what we are calling a voluntary development permit for form and character. If you remember last May, we did suspend all development permits, and normally a form and character development permit would come to council to give them an idea of what buildings are being proposed and make any comments that they have. So what we're looking for tonight is to see council's authorization of the voluntary form and character development permit. The proposal, as you can read in the council report, meets a lot of the best practices that we at planning look at. Some of the features that we thought were rather good on this site, the parking for the supermarket, which we all know can get very busy, especially Friday afternoons at 4 o'clock, is separate from the parking for the residential units. The building itself is 2 stories in height. A lot of the CPTED principles are met. CPTED is crime prevention through environmental design. So what we're looking for there is no dark corners. Some of the things that I personally like about it is if we can have ramps and stuff so that people can move easily with shopping carts, wheelchairs, or strollers from place to place. Essentially, that safe pedestrian movement throughout the building and around the building. And one of the other notes that I put here on this slide is that there were no negative comments. The site at 224 and 280 Main Street is Zone C1 commercial. The proposed building is going to consist of a supermarket, liquor store, and 2 retail spaces for the ground floor. The second floor is proposed to have residential units. So as you can see, the supermarket is the full height of the building over on the left side of your picture. And on the right side of the picture, you'll be able to see that there are some ground floor commercial retail, and above it, there is some residential planned. Here's another rendering of the building. Again, just to show you some of the nighttime view. The things that we thought were really good is the lighting all the way around the building, as well as the trees planned for in the boulevard. The exterior finishes of the building are a mixture of fire-resistant materials, with the main body being in a slate gray and a pearl gray as the upper color. So we've got a bit of a heavier, strong color at the bottom, lighter gray color at the top. Any kind of features are in a wood grain accent and a cherry wood color. This is a metal material. It is a new material that gets used a lot because it doesn't have a lot of challenges in terms of upkeep, etc. One of the things we as planning department really liked is that they cut the corner to allow a little bit of a square in front of the one door, and it just creates areas for pedestrians to gather, etc. So one more time, here's a view from the back, and this is the one that excited me because we've got the loading set very separately. There's no loading trucks and cars and pedestrians intermingling on the site. It is separate. It's got the curbs and stuff to really define that. And then, as you can see, there's plans for a lot of lighting all around the site. That concludes my comments, and I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Berta. So we have a motion, and why don't we put the motion on the floor first, and then we will have any questions. So it's a two-part motion. Councillor Lightfoot. Do you want to? Councillor McCann. Somebody can read it.
I'll move that council authorize the issuance of development permit number 2023-01 DP 2301 for a mixed-use building at lots A and B, section 1, township 15, range 27, west of the 6th meridian, Kamloops Division, Yale District Plan KAP 64629, subject to the following conditions before the permit is issued. The dimensions and siting of the building to be constructed on the land be in accordance with Schedule A. Number 2, the exterior design and finish of the building to be constructed on the land to be in accordance with Schedule B, and that this development permit is valid for 2 years from the date of council approval with no opportunity to extend.
And a seconder, Councillor Lightfoot. Now, do we have any comments or questions? Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm just excited. This is great. It's hard to contain.
Just beautiful looking building.
Yeah, I would agree with you. What I really like, of course, it's brand new, but it's also very similar in layout to what was there before the fire. And I think that's
it's familiar.
That familiar is a good thing. Councillor Toss.
Hi, thank you. Mayor O'Connor, I'm also very excited. This is excellent. I have questions around sort of this process, I guess, going forward. Does this have to come to council, or is it because that it was in contravention of what is in our OCP? My understanding is that it's only if it doesn't conform to our bylaws.
Thank you. That's a very good question. Immediately, right now, the any kind of development permit for multifamily or commercial would come to council. It is generally council who approves those. Most multifamilies do as well. We do know that there's new rules coming through, and we're going to be bringing you a report for that on January 10th meeting in terms of some of the legislative changes that the provincial government is going through, and that might change slightly. Some of the things that we have in Lytton is we do have delegated development permits and delegated variance opportunities, but this particular one being, for a Lytton context, a very large commercial building is one that we felt that council should see and be the ones to make comment on. And it is standard that council would make comments on this type of building.
Thank you.
I have another question.
Any other comment? Oh, Councillor Toss, yes.
Thank you. Sorry, thanks. I was wondering, prior to the fire, the building had quite a loud air conditioner fan system. And I'm wondering if that's ever, like, is there a guarantee that it won't be louder, or is that taken into account at all? Or is there some sort of information given on the HVAC type system and what that means to surrounding areas? I know we have trains.
Thank you, that
so noise is a relative thing, but
Thank you. That is again a very good question. I don't have any details on the roof system. That would be something that would be looked at building permit. This is strictly form and character for the exterior, and just to see if council feels that it works with the normally would say the surrounding areas, but works with the vision that you have for Lytton. It is something that we looked at the building permit, and I would hazard to guess that a modern HVAC system would be much quieter, and generally they tend to be enclosed so that they're not the sound doesn't reverberate, and also that so that they're also not a visual blight. So I think our modern technology that may be different from what was on the previous store might alleviate that.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, Berta, and I appreciated hearing the reasons why you felt, the planning department felt it was a good fit as well. So thank you for that. So if there are no more questions or comments, all those in favor? Carried.
Aye.
Thank you.
Now we move on. Thank you. Now we move on to Public Works, 8.6.1. We have the sewer system flushing. And I believe Brian is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Looking to discuss sewer system flushing and inspection, remediation, some discussion about this. Remediation backfilling activities have been occurring for the last year and a half, and there has been substantial debris buildup in the sewer lines. To ensure that the Village of Lytton is on track to provide services to residents when their homes are rebuilt, inspection and flushing of the sewer lines is required. The information gathered will also be used in forming a long-term investment plan, for which there has recently been an RFP put out. This ARFP was put out January 2023, but was never completed. To date, we've received 3 quotes, one for $35,960,000, one for $52,875,000, and one for $59,533,000. Looking for council to approve the award of $35,960,000 to McRae Environmental Services to do CCTV footage and flushing of 4,500 meters of sewer line.
Great. So we have a recommended motion. Councillor Lightfoot.
I move that council approve the contract award to McRae's Environmental for $35,960 to be funded from the $6.26 million grant from Municipal Affairs.
And a seconder, Councillor Michelle. Now, any comments or questions? Councillor McCann.
Finally, somebody found the sewer safe. Hey, woo. A long time coming. That's
Okay, any other comments or questions? And seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you, Brian. Now we move on to verbal reports. And I will begin. Oh, I apologize. We forgot something here, and I have it written down too.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Did we forget it?
No,
It's still coming.
After the.
You have me. There it is. It's item number 10 that we need to add in. Okay, so our last council meeting was on November 22nd. So I've had a 3 weeks. It's the way that the meetings fall on the calendar. We had a 3 week between meetings. So I've had many emails, meetings, phone calls, etc. Sometimes it's really hard to separate my role as mayor, community volunteer, and resident taxpayer, right, of the village. So when I sat down to write this, I decided I'm just going to comment on tonight's report on a few highlights as my role as mayor. It has been very busy, and at the end of November, I attended the TNRD meeting in Kamloops. As mayor, I attended the first situation table meeting that was arranged by Scott Clay for the Lytton-Lillooet area regarding community safety and well-being and the grant that he received for this project. So that was just an initial meeting to learn about that. I met with Pacifican, both here in Lytton and on Zoom, regarding the homeowners rebuild grant, as well as the partnership with the cooperators, as well as the business grant, which should be announced in the new year, hopefully. But I think the highlight of the past 3 weeks was our face-to-face council-to-council meetings we had with 2 of our local First Nation bands, and of course the conversations we had with them at those meetings. So I'm looking forward to more of that in the new year. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to report, other than just to take the opportunity to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'll move on to Councillor Toss.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Since our last meeting on November 22nd, I don't have a lot to report. I met with the mayor and other councillors with Kanaka Council on the 4th of December. On the 5th, we had a lovely staff and council social, which was very valuable and good for team building and exchanging of information. And then attended via Zoom the community meeting on the 7th, and was very happy to hear, as I'm sure a lot of people were, that cooperators were helping facilitate maybe people accessing the residential Pacifican funding, and then the business rollout seems quite reasonable. So I'm excited about those 2 items from that meeting, and that's all I have to report. Thank you. And Merry Christmas to everyone, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCann.
I went to a number of meetings. So the meeting with the RCMP, that was interesting. There was the 2 of us that were on that one. And that was a call. And I had no idea before what we were doing there, but it's a training opportunity. And that was the big takeaway for me on that one, was that it is a training opportunity for people to figure out how our communities, Lillooet and Lytton, can connect more effectively moving forward in social supports. So I look forward to seeing more about that. I've been involved in the Kumsheen Heritage Committee now. I've attended 3 meetings with that group. I, of course, was at the council-to-council meetings. I attend the Coffee with Council meetings. They're always fun, the sessions there. And the community meeting. And I would just like to acknowledge the volunteer fire department and the newest recruit as Santa on Sunday recently, bless his heart. So it was much appreciated, the support, and the solar lights that are now in Pocket Park going up the stairs are as a result of a donation from Rosalind Hanna, who got a donation to buy those solar lights, and then we put them up, and after a sunny day, they're quite bright, and after a cloudy day, they're not so bright, but they're there. So thank you so much to Dr. Rosalind for following through with that for the village. And yesterday's cooperators presentation, not a lot of people were able to make it, I think because it was short notice. But they did leave some information. They did take some comments back. Like, I know I specifically asked them to be more upfront and clear about how much it's going to cost people to engage in that process, like financially. So obviously they're not going to do it for free. So that I'm looking forward to seeing more information come back from them regarding their participation with Pacifican. But it was really encouraging to hear and to see the people from the credit union. There was a rep from the credit union who was here talking about their role in financing and how the whole team works together to help the people, let's hope more residents can take advantage of it. I hope so. And other than that, we have all our Christmas stuff to do. I look forward to seeing people in town, buddies, helping out, and have a good holiday. I intend to.
Thank you. Councillor Michelle.
Once again, I don't have too much to report. I did attend the council to council meetings and the community meeting, but other than that, I haven't made it up too often. On that note, Modi released their update that the bridge is going to be open on Friday, so that'll be nice.
To Jackass Bridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great news. Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Good. Councillor Lightfoot.
I attended both meetings, council to council meetings with Strapa and with Kanaka, and have been able to make it over for coffee a couple of Mondays. Good conversation. It was good to see some of our extended staff in Lytton at our social, and I'm looking forward to the holiday train coming in this Sunday, I believe, and I mean, these people wear so many hats. It's hard. Village Community Club. I understand there's a social at the hall after the train event around noon. So I'm hoping I'll get to visit with a lot of people at that event. And as with everyone else, I wish you all a Merry Christmas. It's a dark time of the year. It's a good time to plan, and it's a good time to reminisce. And I was trying to think where we were a year ago. I had to ask the mayor, and I think there was still debris in the town, wasn't there? And I'm feeling quite optimistic that as we go into the new year, we'll see many more rebuilds. And so
there's a foundation sitting there.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 10, which is other business. And we did have a late item added, and it is a change order award. We have a motion, a recommended motion. Who would like to make that recommended motion? Yes.
I can make it.
Thank you.
So I move that council approve a change order request to MatCon for $96,690 and Arcadis/IBI Group for $24,900 as part of additional work preparing for an archaeological excavation.
And a seconder, Councillor Lightfoot. And I believe we have somebody here, Dawn here to answer any questions we have. So are there any questions or comments regarding that? Yes, Councillor Toss.
Just wondering where those amounts came from. Could you tell me again? Was it I don't have the motion in front of me because it was new business, but it was 96,000 to MatCon
and 24,900 to IBI.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments regarding this?
I guess I just want clarification on why 96,000. Like, how did that number $100,000 come to? It seems like a lot of money to remove debris.
Sure. Part of it is the removal of a foundation, and and there's some contamination underneath it and around it, so that has to get all shipped out. More than half of that is actually the dumpage fees.
Okay, so that includes the asbestos, the ACM.
Yeah,
dumpage fees.
Yeah, all the HWI. So it's just one number, but it's like I say, at least half, if not more, is going towards those fees.
Thank you.
And it's an estimate as well, right? Until they get in there.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor McCann?
Just make sure I understand what you just said. So this is approval for one property that needs extra work done to it, and that on top of the work being done, there is hazardous materials removal, and that is part of the reason why it is so pricey?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, that brings us to the end of the open meeting, and we're going to be moving into closed meeting, and so we need a motion to do so. We have the recommended motion here. Councillor Lightfoot.
Move that council close the meeting to the public to discuss matters related to community charter sections 91A, 91C, 92B.
And a seconder?
Sure.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. All those in favor? Carried. And that brings us to the end. So thank you, everyone, for attending, and I'm going to turn it over to CO.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. That concludes the public portion of the regular council meeting of December 13th, 2023. We ask that the public and staff please remove yourselves from the meeting as we go into our closed session. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Right, kicked everybody out.
I didn't. They just all left.
Oh. How many were on?
We're still on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm going to take YouTube off. Yeah,
Okay.
I was just going to do that.
Is you?
Yeah, it
No,
just.
it's still.